You find us on the roof terrace of the Hilltop Science Centre at Wisley. Matt, describe some of the gardens that have been put in around this building.
Yeah, so we've got 3 gardens, a focus on food, well-being and wildlife. So 3 major themes in fighting the climate crisis, in people's mental health and well-being that we wanted to focus on. And the well-being garden that we're literally overlooking now, that is really to look at, actually, we know gardening is good for us. We talk about it as gardeners all the time, but actually to get some science behind it, is it certain textures of plants that help us relax and and bring well-being, or colours or scents. So they're laid out as these garden rooms with different planting themes, and we actually want to get some science behind that. So to actually do some experiments, do people's cortisol levels fall when they're among lavenders and rosemaries?
Yeah.
Or is it blue flower plants, or is it yellow flower plants that excite us? So while being a very pretty garden, we want to actually be able to create a blueprint for a well-being garden. And then in the food garden, the World Food Garden, is a huge variety of plot to plate plantings in there, but not just with your regular AGM carrots and potatoes, but there's crops that you would see from different parts of the world as well.
It's stunning.
It's really, really fun in there. It's a real celebration of colour and textures and different forms of different plants. And you can eat in there as well, so that's partly connected to our World Food Cafe, so there is some seating in there and you can eat among the planting. And then in the wildlife garden, that's very much to showcase some of our science work of our Plants for Bugs project.
Yep.
So it's looking at, is it just native plants that are good for wildlife? The answer is no, it's a wide variety. And there's big areas of meadows, of water, and it's to show that a wildlife garden can be really beautiful and be a really varied collection of plants too.
It's gorgeous. And it's so tranquil. And you touched on the well-being side of things. Scent in a garden, all the senses are just so important. Touch, smell, looking and also listening to what's happening with the wildlife, and a bit of just peace and quiet sometimes. Just to take time out to stop, look and listen. So important.
It's hilarious you say the peace and quiet as this mowers roaring away behind us. It's our golden couple of hours before we open to get things done, so it's always this hive of activity first thing.
No, it's to be at Wisley. I've been lucky enough in years gone by to come here for the Dawn Chorus and go around with groups of people, and it's really special. The whole site. And there's 240 acres?
There are,
And how many are in your team? Because you have got an enormous team that you're
a big team,
involved with now.
There's about 112 of us in my team. That includes our students and apprentices, and over 80 full-time gardeners. And then on top of all that, we've got about 200 volunteers, which support by giving us a day a week of their time. So, huge operation. And, to be able to run a garden like this, it is all about the team. It's all about finding the right people, giving them space and opportunity to do things, to learn, to experiment, giving them the training they need, and giving everyone quite a clear focus of what we're about, where we're going. What does that area of the garden that they look after deliver, offer, and when is it supposed to be looking great? Because you can, in a garden this big, areas can lose their identities. Everybody can be planting 3 of this, 5 of that, 2 of this, and really different areas need to perform and sing at different times of the year with a really strong identity. So, very much my role as curator is keeping that overview of what does this place offer and when.
Well, it is the centre and the home of horticulture, has been for 200 and something years now.
The earliest plantings here were in about 1880, 1870. It was an experimental garden then, and there's still lots of areas of experiment today, but also it is a demonstration garden. So if you're coming to look at cooking apples or tropical orchids or water plants or lavenders, we have big hearty plant collections for people to be able to see the breadth of what they could grow at home.
I'm going to say thank you from my heart, because I know how passionate you are about this. It's something that's been in my life, and I absolutely adore, like you, sharing our plant knowledge and the enthusiasm that horticulture gives, and how important it is to our well-being. I know we talk about it a lot now, but when I broke my leg some years ago, I went through the floor with depression. but it was the gardening and the nature and wildlife that helped pull me through. And also some help from Perennial, the horticultural charity. It's nice to be able to give it back and pass on all that knowledge and help. So,
well, it's been a delight to welcome you and show you around, and we could carry on for hours.
I know, we've only just scratched the surface.
But it's been really nice to welcome you today.
Thank you, Matt, very much indeed.
Thanks,
Cheers.
Peter.